Yes, class, shall we begin? Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, okay. I'm just uploading the PPT for your. I have uploaded the PPT. Please confirm whether you have received or not. I also share the same.
It's
It's there, no? Okay.
it's visible, ma'am.
So today we will be talking about the Secretariat, that's the fifth organ of your UN organization. And to begin with, as we all know, the Secretariat is the composition or a main organ that actually is the face of the whole United Nations organization. These are the people who actually work. They are the staff of the UN, and again, they're appointed. And it is again one of the most important organs of the UN, the principal organs, and it consists of firstly, what is secretariat. So for this reason, for the smooth functioning of the UN, for various execution of its decisions, administration of its various policies, programs, the charter of the UN created this office called the Secretariat, who is headed by a Secretary General and its staff members. So the Secretary General is more or like the face of the whole UNO. He is appointed for a term of 5 years, okay, by the General Assembly, and which is again supported by the recommendation of uh, Security Council. Again, that should be total in 9 members out of 15, including the 5 members of the permanent members of the Security Council. And what does it do? Basically, it carries out various works of the UN which are confirmed and mandated by the General Assembly. Secretary General is the head or the face of the whole UN as well as the Secretariat. Uh, you know, and they have a huge office wherein numerous staff members work, and they have various working stations all over the world, and they have recruited internationally, locally, and they have their work stations, duty stations in settled in all across the world, and they help in peacekeeping missions also. So the main important cause or the reason for the creation of secretariat is the again to how to found the only thing that is important is to have peace and security across the globe, and this is what the job for the UN and the secretariat. So a secretariat is like organized along with various departmental lines in each and department having a separate wing or you can say separate office and an area, distinct area of action and work and responsibilities. The offices and the departments coordinate with each other, and they fulfill the UN's work programs, and it is the main campus or the main office for the secretariat is located at the New York, USA, right? So coming to the composition part. So again, composition of the secretariat. Right. So composition means again, as I told you, it shall comprise of the Secretary General and other staff members, which is under my Article 97 of the UN Charter. And the Secretariat is the Secretary General is also the member of the Secretariat staff, and he has been mentioned separately because he is considered to be the Chief Administrative Officer, right? So the Chief Administrative Officer of the Secretariat, but he's also a member staff of the Secretariat, and Secretary General is designated as the face of the whole organization, be it the Secretariat or be it the UNO. So the Secretariat staff is probably divided into three categories: the senior administrative officials, that is again the Secretary General and his deputy members. And secondly, the second category is about the international officials having a specialist class. And third type is about the technical persons who, such as other secretaries, typists, and other courier agents, etc. So the system of the appointment is different from for Secretary General and other members. It is different for appointment of the Secretary General. Okay, so Secretary General is again appointed by the General Assembly on the recommendation of the Security Council. Again, it is done, it actually did not lay down a proper procedure, but a provisional procedure only. So this is only followed. So through this, the General Assembly considered the recommendations from the Security Council, and thereby, in a secret ballot system, in a private meeting, the procedure is followed, and thereafter he is appointed. The Secretary General is appointed through a procedure of simple majority system. That is, the members of the General Assembly who are present and voting. So this is how the person is selected and elected as the Secretary General, and his appointment procedure is laid down, though his role is actually silent in the UN Charter, right? Because its role is having beyond any scope, beyond any thought. That is why they have kept it wide and open, that any role that is related to UN could be performed by the Secretary General, or maybe ask for his recommendations. And also, after the term of 5 years, there can be renewal of the same appointmentee of the Secretary General. So the first, member of the member for the Secretary General is, just a moment. Yes, so is Trygve Lie. Okay, he was from Norway, and he was the first Secretary General of the UN. Again, there were numerous, members as well as Secretary General uh, who has lived here, who has has been appointed. And Secretary General is considered to be one person who is more than an administrator, and all other appointees have had experience in all the foreign affairs in general, and they could have conducted various multilateral negotiations. So the person that is appointed should be a diplomat, firstly, and he is considered to be a true international administrative officer, and as well as international civil servant. He is also called the same. And again, for that reason, he needs to be impartial and and should be accountable for his work, and he should be he should be looked upon by the UN as well as other governments of the member states. His impartiality must remain, and the feeling of indebtedness amongst his government should have not actually made a difference for his appointment. So he is required not to seek any receive any uh, situations through any government offices of his own country or from any other external authority. So this way, the functions of the Secretary General are enlisted so that he can work for the benefit of the world over, should not be biased towards any particular government or any member state. right? And then is about the another body, that is the deputy the secretary general. So in 1977, this was a creation of a post called the deputy secretary general to assist the secretariat as and when the secretary general is not functional, or maybe he is not there at the meeting. So the post of the this deputy secretary general shall be again is an integral part of the secretary general, and he is appointed. The deputy secretary general is appointed by the secretary general by the consultation with its member states, and again for not a period for that for the secretary general. So the deputy secretary general will support the secretary general in ensuring his coherence towards his activities, as well as various programs for elevating the profile and leadership of the UN, and also in various economic and social spheres, and also should be the leading center for developmental policies and again developmental assistance. So there are a few functions that the deputy general secretary general performs, is that he would act, or he or she would act as in lieu of the secretary general at the UN headquarters in his or her absence. So he's a replacement, he's a backup. And the Deputy Secretary General also represents the head of the UN at conferences and various ceremonies, as well as official UN functions. And the Deputy Secretary General should also undertake assignments as and when they are determined by the Secretary General himself. Right? So this was about the Deputy Secretary General. Coming to the role of the Secretary General. So the major role that is played by a Secretary General again is, he is partially a diplomat, an advocate, a civil servant, and also a CEO. The Chief Administrative Officer, the Chief Executive Officer uh, of the UN in particular. He is like the symbol who is speaking up for the UN and the ideals of UN for the interest of the world's people, and in particular the poor as well as vulnerables amongst them. So this was about the role. The role is just like he's the face of the whole organization as well as the principal organ of the secretariat. And about the current Secretary General is the ninth occupant of the post, and Mr. Antonio Guterres of Portugal. He took over the office in 2017, and Secretary General is by default, the chairperson for various United Nations System Chief Executive Board for coordination. Again, he is the one who brings together all the executive heads for the UN and its programs and specialized agencies. That is conducted twice a year for further coordination and also cooperation in the entire range of various substantive as well as management issues whenever the UN faces, or the United Nations system faces such issues or conditions. Coming to the role, this was the role, and coming to the powers and functions of the Secretariat, or as well as the Secretary General. As I told you, the Secretary General is considered to be the chief administrative officer of the organization, and he has the whole capacity to act and perform such functions that are entrusted upon them by the Security Council, the General Assembly, ECOSOC, as well as other UN organs. This charter also empowers the Secretary General to bring attention of the Security Council on any matter which may actually threaten the peace and security of the world, and he has to maintain the peace and security. So, in his capacity as a Secretary General, has to hold all the meetings of his General Assembly, Security Council, ECOSOC, and trusteeship, and he is to act as a representation of the secretariat in all these meetings, and through all the main organs. Also, the Secretary General, in accordance with the, you can say, Article 98 of the UN Charter, performs various functions that are interested upon it in relation to various other organs like General Assembly, Security Council, ECOSOC, and Trusteeship Council. So there are variety of powers that are to be performed by the Secretary General. So another important work which the Secretary General does is to make an annual report to the General Assembly on the works of the organization. It is there is a draft convention, a draft resolution of the Security Resolution 1998. So he prepares an annual report. Thereafter, with the consent of the Security Council, notifies the General Assembly on various matters that are related to maintenance of peace and security, which are to be dealt with Security Council. And similarly, vice versa, it informs and notifies Assembly and the members of the UN if the General Assembly is not in session, and also if there is some session about the maintaining or relating to the maintenance of international peace and security. Also, he may bring into attention about various matters to the Security Council, which upon him are actually the matters of threat or matters of the use of force, and that could actually threaten the maintenance of peace and security. And it is like an obligation upon the Secretary General to have such a sessions as and when required. Whenever the General Assembly has requested it for a majority member, decision, Secretary General can evoke a special session or an emergency special session of the General Assembly, so that the emergency is dealt with. And in regards to non-self-governing territories, that members who have not actually have the responsibilities for administration of his territories, the Secretary General, for information purpose and statistical and other information, can ask for the whole status of that non-self-governing territories as and when required. That could be in the nature of economics, social and educational conditions in those territories. Right? This is enlisted in Article 73. Also, Secretary General, at the instance of Security Council, may perform tasks of good offices, that is again through negotiation, mediation. Secretary Generals are like the good offices who may actually take steps publicly and in private for drawing independence or impartial and integrity to prevent any international dispute from arising, escalating, or spreading across. So uh, again, Secretary General has remained always an important organ, an important source of aid and advice, also for on demand of the Security Council as well as the General Assembly, for again finalizing various plans of deployments of peacekeeping missions, right? In various troubled areas. Once the peacekeeping mission is established, the Secretary General actually becomes responsible for the executive command as well as control of these peace operations, and it is done all over the political authority of the Security Council, right? And also, lastly, it upholds the values and moral authority of the UN, and it speaks and acts for peace. And at the most challenging times, also he has represented various member states. The Secretary General registers and actually publishes every treaty and every international agreement which is entered into by any member of the United Nations, and it has to submit it for any of the purposes. So he is the face or the signature power of the whole UNO. Also, a few functions or the role it has in relation to International Court of Justice. So again, ICJ is also considered to be another principal judicial organ of the UN, and it has its own statute of International Court of Justice, and they have enlisted a few powers or functions that are related to Secretary General. So, the Secretary General actually has several functions in respect of the appointment of judges and election of judges of the ICJ, right? So, for example, he makes a request of nominations from all the national groups. He prepared and submits the list to the General Assembly and Security Council for various nominations. We will also go through the statute of ICJ in our next class while we are dealing with ICJ as well as ICC, right? So we'll be discussing both the statutes, and thereby again we'll touch upon this very topic, that what is the relation and role of Secretary General in positioning ICJ. Also, when a judge resigns, the president of the court has to notify the Secretary General, and notification is done as there is a vacancy, and the Secretary General has to make arrangements for election of the new judge. The formal notification of dismissal also of a judge is done, has to be made through the Secretary General. And declaration by state parties to Statute of International Court accepting its compulsory jurisdiction are also to be deposited to the Security Council. Again, the court notifies everything through the Secretary General to the members of the UN of the cases if they are filed in relation to any UN member. Also, before the court actually delivers its advisory opinion to the Security Council or to the General Assembly, it has to give a notice to Secretary General. And when court proposes any amendments to its statute of ICJ, it has to do it should be done through a written statement to the Secretary General. So there are when it comes to enumeration of secretariat, which is actually under its Secretary General, the UN actually functioning is done through this person, the Secretary General. The immense amount of, again, research, drafting of documents, surveying problems, and arrangements of convenience of all the delegates, falls on the Secretariat. He has to, make the decisions as well as functions and implement through a continuous administrative action. And thereafter, this was all about Secretary General. Now, what are other members of the Secretariat? Who are them? So the Secretary General cannot actually perform everything on its own. So they have a member staff and who is there to function. And since he cannot do it personally, so it has kept a few assistants. Assistants are like who are the staff of the Secretariat, and they are appointed by the Secretary General under the regulations, of course, by the General Assembly. And the staff is permanently assigned to Economic and Social Council, the Trusteeship Council, as required to the United Nations. And through this, in order to considerate the employment of the staff, they should be selecting only those people who have a determination in to perform in various conditions, and they should have a highest of the standards of efficiency, competence, and integrity. And also, they should be comprising of, or you can say, recruitment should be from a wide range of geographical bases as far as possible, right? And there, the secretariat has to perform functions independently, and secretary general and the staff shall not seek any instructions as from any other government or the member states. They shall actually refrain from any action that might reflect, as an international official, that they become the face of the UNO, and rather than the face of their own member state. They have to perform impartially and reflect their position as an international official who is responsible only for the organization and not for his own or her own government. So, so this Secretary General, Deputy Secretary General, as well as other member staff are exclusively, members of international character, and they have responsibilities where they should not seek any influence from any outside body or any outside organization, or maybe their governments or other governments, or be it their any other member states, right? I hope this topic is small and it's very clear by now. Any questions you can ask me? Any questions, bache? Also, there is an announcement for you all. I'll also put it in the group that we have another additional class tomorrow morning at 10, and side by side we'll have the other class, which is again at 2 p.m. tomorrow. So we in total we'll have two classes tomorrow. Okay. Shall I move forward?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Yes,
then
ma'am.
yes, then we'll talk about the next two projects. I hope everybody from that group has prepared something. Shall I call out the names now? I hope you have done something this time. Tomorrow I'll be taking up ICJ and ICC. Please be there in the class. It is again a very, very relevant topic, and it's very important for you to learn. Right? So make sure you are present for both the classes tomorrow. So far as again, wait. So the next topics of discussions are WHO. It was WHO, right? Yes. So first we have to discuss about IBRD, right? So Dipsika, Disha Roy, Isha, Ibad, Fasila, Gayatri, Shrikar, Goresh, Hansika, Harshal, Harshvardhan, Harshita, Hasib, Hemantram, Ishika, Janvi. Have you prepared anything? What does IBRD stand for? Anybody amongst the class? What is IBRD? And what does it signify? What is the main task it does? Nobody in the class? Yes, shall I mark you absent? Hold the group. Nobody is there in the class amongst these. Deepsika, are you there? Ibad, Fasila, Gayatri. Yes, Gayatri, you are there in the class. Can you talk about IBRD with me? Gayatri Priya, you're right there in the class. You're not there. Okay. And Harshvardhan, Harshita, nobody? So any which ways, IBRD or World Bank is, which is also called the World Bank, firstly, was founded through, again, a conference also known as Bretton Woods Conference. It was a conference for international economic affairs, and it came into existence in 1945 and it started operating in 1946. Why? Because why was it created and what is a special, why it's a specialized agency? Because again, the bank actually went and became in a relationship with the UN very late. In 1947, it began its operations for United Nations. The bank is an international cooperative organization which is in association with the United Nations. Firstly, it has an aim to assist and reconstruct and develop its various members for facilitating international investments of various capital for productive purposes, for restoration of economics which are destroyed or disrupted by various wars. That is why it is called a bank of reconstruction. And also, it encourages and facilitates, productive facilities as well as resources for the member governments and the government agencies for or private enterprises, which are under government guarantee. So the main organs of IBRD are the Board of Governors, Executive Directors, and the President. So the Board of the Governors is consisting of representatives from all the member states, and they meet once a year. And also they discuss policy matters of the bank, and you know as far as the 21 members of executive directors are concerned, they meet at least one a month to actually approve all the loans of the bank headquarters. And the president is supposed to be selected by all these executive directors, and who is also the face or the chairman. The headquarters are for the bank again are in Washington, and have small offices which are maintained in various areas, for example, in Paris, New York, and London, right? So the bank actually lends for the development of the economic facilities, and it facilitates loans that are made by various other nations, states, or member states for in order to have their political subdivisions or maybe for their private businesses and territories. So, through this, the rate of interest of charged bank is related to the rate of interest in which it would have to pay to borrow money, and again, the capital markets of the world. right? So the bank aid is not limited to granting loans, but also has provided a huge technical support or assistance services to member countries in various ways by for example for conducting economical surveys, for developmental and potential to develop regional investigations or advise on particular economics projects of their nation states. Again, it working actually depends largely upon the lending capacity and its adequacy to meet the requirements of the developing countries. It has to again maintain two just because of the two main reasons it has become the World Bank, because of its considerable contributions for the states and also by the states. The bank is also criticized because the rate of interest it charges is way too high, that is 8.2%. And through this bank, there has been, you know, exceptionally great improvement for various developing countries so that they can have equal standards of living. And the demand, since because the loans demand has increased rapidly and by the various states, so henceforth it is actually unable to meet many of the requirements for the member states. So but it's improving a lot. Yes, the second group, this was about IBRD or the World Bank, International Bank for Reconstruction and Development. The next group is Group 12, who will discuss WHO. Bhanu, Bhargavi, Bhavya, Pranavi, Chaitanya Sai, Chaitri, Chandrika, Samdrula, Madhulika, Dakshayani, Tejaswini, Pujita, Shweta.
Yes, ma'am. Tejaswini.
Yeah. Okay. What is the role of WHO and anything you want to highlight about WHO and its organs? Yes. Who was there? Are you there, Bache? No answer? You don't know the answer? Say yes or no.
Ma'am, Tejaswini.
Okay, Tejaswini. May I know something that you have learned through the project of WHO?
Ma'am, can I tell about role, ma'am?
Yes, yes, please.
There are three types of role, ma'am.
Okay.
Can I open my PPT?
Yes, please, you can do that.
Ma'am, the role of WHO was categorized into three categories, ma'am.
Mm-hmm.
So here it was normative function, a directive and coordinative function, and this includes a health also, ma'am.
Mm-hmm.
Inter like providing leadership on global health,
Mm-hmm.
shaping a research agenda, and setting the standards of global health, and advocating for evidence and based and ethical policies also, ma'am, and monitoring and assembling health trends and concerns.
Okay. So, do you know anything about the organs of WHO?
Ma'am, 1 minute. Like, like World Health Assembly and Executive Board
Mm-hmm.
and Director General,
Oh,
etc., ma'am. Like a legislature and executive and judiciary.
yes, please. Good.
key organs, ma'am?
So, firstly, WHO is like a specialized agency that has a special wing or field that is health. So, health is again, according to WHO, is the idea of creation of constitution of WHO is to define health and its standards of health. So, health is considered a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and it's just not merely any absence of any disease or infirmity. So WHO was firstly, this idea of having a specialized agency in the field of health was introduced, and at the conference on international organization at San Francisco in 1945. Through this international health conference, it was convened by the ECOSOC, and it was held in New York. And henceforth, through this conference, this agency was formed, the World Health Organization, and it actually came into force in 1948. And on the day of 7th of April, and this is considered to be the World Health Day. And the again, the main objective of WHO is to attain is to attain that all the people should have the highest possibility of levels of health. So it has actually done a commendable work and tremendous work in its fields related to international health work. It has actually assisted many countries who are fighting against various diseases, against malaria, TB, influenza, smallpox, leprosy, etc., and various communicable diseases also. Again, with the advent of pandemic, the relevance and importance of WHO and its research is actually strengthened a lot. And as far as the organs are concerned, it functions through three main organs. Firstly, the World Health Assembly, which consists of all the members of member states, the delegates from all the member states, and they assemble annually and determine various policies and programs of WHO. The second organ is considered to be the executive board, which consists of 31 members, and they are elected by the World Health Assembly, and they are elected for a period of 3 years. And this board is just not comprising of political members, but they are the technical as well as non-political organ. This executive board is basically a technical or a non-political organ, wherein there are various expertise that are the executive directors of WHO executive board. And they meet at least twice a year and give decisions. And this is like an administrative body, which is actually headed by a director general, right? So the third constituent of the main organ is the Director General, who is the head of the executive board. Okay, and it is actually located in Geneva, but it has, decentralized into various 6 regional organizations who have been working tirelessly in eliminating all these diseases, or you can say, fight against the best of the health, and has provided a tremendous work in the in this areas of international health work. And its work has been appreciated, highlighted, and especially in this pandemic, their work and decisions are actually making whole of the difference, right? So is it clear? So tomorrow we have another class in the morning at 10 a.m. uh, it is an additional class to 2 p.m. as well. So tomorrow we'll have 2 classes, and I hope I'll be able to finish off with the syllabus. And we are just left with the last unit, which we'll be continuing right after your uh, NCP3. Okay. And also we'll be discussing about UNESCO and Food and Agriculture Organization and ILO tomorrow. And Please, students, be prepared. At least I need to have a discussion. I hope I made myself clear. For the group 13 people, 14, and group, uh, 12. 12 is done, huh? 13, 14, and 15. All the members of these group projects should be done, and you should have mailed me by this week. Otherwise, there is no marking for you. Anyway, thank you, class. I'm closing this class now. It's already late. Thank you so much. Have a nice day. See you tomorrow.